Search and rescue teams are still scouring the waters of the Potomac River after a midair collision in Washington, D.C. last night. An Army Blackhawk helicopter collided with an American Airlines regional jet.
The airliner carried 64 passengers and crew. 3 soldiers were on board the Army helicopter. Officials report recovering bodies from the river with no sign of survivors. CBN's Wendy Griffith has more.
A live stream from an EarthCam web camera capturing the moment of impact, a fireball lighting up the sky. Both aircraft then crashing into the Potomac River, making rescue efforts difficult.
The water that we're operating in is about 8 feet deep. There is wind, there is pieces of ice out there, so it's just dangerous and hard to work in.
CBN's John Jessup on the scene at Reagan National after the crash.
The collision's ground stop brought what's usually a busy and bustling airport to a standstill. I've lived in Washington for 20 years, and I've never seen Washington Reagan Airport quite like this. The mood here, eerily quiet and incredibly somber as the search and rescue operation continues.
Authorities say the jet was inbound from Wichita, Kansas, and making its final approach to Reagan with 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board. Officials say 3 Army soldiers were on the Blackhawk. Ari Schulman was driving home when he looked up and saw the plane falling from the sky.
It was illuminated bright yellow underneath, and there was a spray of sparks on the underside of the plane, and I knew something was wrong.
Emergency personnel rushing to the scene. Overnight, officials scrambling boats and divers in the darkness, hoping to pull any possible survivors out of the frigid water. The investigation now underway as officials try to determine what happened. The mayor of Wichita asking for prayer.
We really want to ask each and every Wichitan, Kansan, and American to pray for everyone involved in this incident.
The CEO of Reagan National Airport says they've been providing support to the families impacted by this tragedy. The airport will be closed until later today. Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Well, CBN News anchor John Jessup is at Reagan National Airport. He joins us now. So, John, what can you tell me about the victims of this horrible tragedy?
Yeah, it's as you said, just horrible. There are 64 victims as far as the passengers and crew on the plane, 60 passengers who were on that flight, that regional airline from Wichita, final destination here at Washington Reagan National Airport with 4 crew members. And then there were 3 U.S. Army soldiers who were aboard that Blackhawk helicopter that was on a training mission. We don't have a lot of information right now. What I can say as far as the recovery, 28 bodies officially had been recovered. There's some disparity on the numbers, but we found out this morning during the press conference, the fire chief letting us know that the official body count is determined by bodies in possession by the medical examiner's office. So right now, the medical examiners only have 28 bodies. Some of the people that have been identified, we only know through statements, public statements being made. So there was a World Figure Skating Championship in Wichita recently, and the U.S. figure skating community has lost members of that community, and 2 Russian nationals have been identified, potentially coaches who were coaching their son as well, potentially involved in this horrific accident.
What can you tell us about how the accident happened? I've got to ask the question, why is the Army doing a training exercise on an active pathway for landing? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, you know, you hit on a really good point. What's hard to understand about this particular airport, which serves the Washington metropolitan area, it is the closest to the District of Columbia. It sits in Virginia, but literally you can hop on the interstate and be in downtown D.C. within 5 minutes. The issue is there are a lot of jurisdictions here. You have the military, you have commercial flights, and what we're learning is that both the commercial flight 5342, and the military helicopter were both doing what they normally do. They were flying their standard flight patterns. What we can't figure out is why they collided. Those questions still remain. The investigation will hopefully answer some of those questions, but right now where their focus is on recovering the bodies of the victims. Again, 67 people total, and the fire chief said that will probably take days.
Well, how about the search and rescue teams? It's got to be absolutely incredible for them. You're dealing with water that induces hypothermia. How are they going to be able to operate in these kinds of conditions?
Yeah, wonderful question. So there were about 300 responders that were here at the height of the search and rescue, activated last night at about 8:48 Eastern time here local. That was when the control tower issued the alert that there was an accident. As you said, divers were in the water, and let me tell you what I understand about the water conditions and the conditions weather-wise yesterday. The water temperature was about 35 degrees, which according to one of the local meteorologists here, as they were trying to explain, that a person submerged in that kind of water at that temperature, the transfer rate of body heat is 25 times faster than just air. So you could be in the water for about 3 minutes and then begin to lose dexterity with your fingers, with your hands and your arms and your limbs. And you can just imagine how quickly after that you lose the ability to respond. As far as these first responders, again, about 300 divers, all jurisdictions, state, federal, and what you just hinted at is this is it's carnage. They've had to search in dark, murky water that some portions of the Potomac River are still covered in ice from the winter weather that we just had a few days ago. So that's made the search very difficult. I should also mention that the fuselage of the plane had been split into 3 separate parts, so they're having to really touch and feel, as the fire chief mentioned, their way through the debris field. So it's going to take a long time, and for these folks, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to process. He did mention that they have care teams that are already in contact with a lot of the responders to help them process and navigate what they're going through.
Well, John, thanks for being with us. We'll keep us posted on the latest developments, and our prayers are with every one of the family members. This has been a horrible tragedy, and I hope that things are put into place. It will never happen again.